Have you ever wondered about the story of Eden from a different perspective? We all know the classic tale, Adam, Eve, the apple, and the serpent. It's often painted as a simple story of temptation and a fall from grace. But what if there's more to it? What if, within that fateful encounter, lie profound, hidden lessons about humanity, knowledge, and the very nature of our existence? Today, we're going to journey back to the garden, not to condemn, but to understand. We'll explore the hidden lessons of the serpent, and what Eve, the mother of all living, might have truly learned in that pivotal moment. This isn't about rewriting the story, but about uncovering the layers of wisdom tucked within it. So, grab a seat, open your mind, and let's delve into what might be one of the most misunderstood conversations in history. First, let's set the scene. Imagine Eden, a place of perfect harmony, of effortless existence. There's no struggle, no pain, no need. Adam and Eve live in a state of pure innocence, a blissful ignorance. They are cared for, provided for, and live without a single worry. In this paradise, God gives them one single instruction: do not eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. It's a simple rule for a simple life. But simplicity, as we know, is rarely the whole story of human experience. This is where the serpent enters the narrative, often depicted as the embodiment of evil. Let's for a moment consider the serpent not just as a tempter, but as a catalyst. A catalyst for what? For change, for growth, for the beginning of the human story as we know it. The serpent doesn't use force, it uses words. It asks a question. Did God really say, "You must not eat from any tree in the garden"? It's a subtle, probing question designed to spark curiosity and critical thought, the very first why in a world of unquestioning obedience. This brings us to our first hidden lesson, the dawn of critical thinking. Before the serpent's question, Eve's reality was absolute. God's word was law, and there was no reason to question it. But the serpent introduces a new concept, doubt. It encourages Eve to examine the rule, to think about its implications. "You will not certainly die," the serpent says, "for God knows that when you eat of it your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil." This wasn't just a temptation to disobey. It was an invitation to know. It planted the seed that there was something beyond her current understanding, a reality she was not yet privy to. Eve is presented with a choice, not just between obedience and disobedience, but between ignorance and knowledge. By engaging with the serpent's argument, she steps out of passive acceptance and into active consideration. She weighs the command against the promise of wisdom. This is the birth of independent thought, the moment humanity began to evaluate its own circumstances and desire something more than what was simply given. It's the foundational moment of our intellectual and spiritual journey. The second lesson is intrinsically tied to the first, the immense value and inherent risk of free will. In their state of innocence, Adam and Eve had a theoretical choice, but it was untested. They were like children in a perfectly safe room, told not to touch one specific object. The choice only becomes real when the desire to touch it is awakened. The serpent's words awakened that desire in Eve. Suddenly, the choice was no longer theoretical. It was real, present, and had consequences. This is the essence of free will. It isn't just about having options. It's about having the awareness and desire to choose between them, even when one path is forbidden. Eve's decision to eat the fruit was the first true exercise of human free will against a divine command. It was a declaration of autonomy. While it led to exile from paradise, it also unlocked the very thing that defines our human experience: the ability to choose our own path, to make mistakes, and to learn from them. Without this choice, humanity would have remained in a state of perpetual childhood, perfect but stagnant. The fall from Eden can be seen not just as a punishment, but as the necessary, painful birth of human agency. And this leads us to the third, and perhaps most profound, lesson: the necessity of duality for growth. The tree was called the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Notice, it's not the tree of evil, but of both. Before this moment, concepts like good and evil didn't exist for Eve in a practical sense. How can you understand light if you've never known darkness? How can you appreciate joy without ever feeling sorrow? Or strength without ever experiencing weakness? The serpent's promise was that their eyes would be opened, and they were. Suddenly, they saw their own vulnerability, their nakedness. They felt shame, a feeling that was utterly alien in their world of perfect acceptance. They experienced fear. These were painful, difficult emotions. But with this new knowledge of hardship, they also gained the capacity to understand its opposite. The knowledge of good and evil introduced duality into the world. It created the spectrum of human experience. It's through navigating this duality, the struggle between our better angels and our inner demons, the experience of loss that teaches us the value of what we have, that we find meaning, build character, and grow in wisdom. Paradise was static perfection. Earth became a dynamic training ground for the soul. Think about what happened immediately after. They were cast out of Eden, they had to work the land, face hardship, and experience pain. But they also experienced the joy of creation, the love of family, and the satisfaction of building a life through their own efforts. They learned resilience. They learned forgiveness. They learned to rely on each other. These are lessons that could never have been learned in the sterile perfection of the garden. The serpent, in this light, didn't just lead them to a fall. It pushed them off a cliff into the vast ocean of life itself. It forced them to learn how to swim. The knowledge they gained was a heavy burden, but it was also a powerful tool. It was the tool that allowed them to build civilizations, to create art, to seek scientific understanding, and to wrestle with the great philosophical and spiritual questions that continue to drive us today. The story suggests that a life of blissful ignorance, free from struggle, might also be a life free from deep meaning and personal growth. So, what did Eve truly learn? She learned that knowledge comes at a price. She learned the power and responsibility of choice. She learned that growth is impossible without struggle, and that wisdom is forged in the crucible of hardship. She stepped out of a world of black and white rules and into the complex, nuanced, and often painful gray area of human existence. The serpent's role in this epic drama is far more complex than just a simple villain. It was the voice that whispered the uncomfortable truth, that to be fully human, to be like God, isn't about being perfect and obedient. It's about knowing joy and sorrow, good and evil, success and failure. It's about having the freedom to choose, the courage to face the consequences, and the resilience to learn from it all. The story of Eve in the garden isn't just an ancient tale of temptation, it's our story. It's the story of humanity's awakening, the moment we traded placid perfection for the messy, beautiful, and profound journey of becoming who we are. Thank you so much for joining me on this exploration today. It's a topic with endless layers, and this is just one perspective on a story that has shaped our world. What are your thoughts? Do you see the serpent's role differently? I'd love to read your insights in the comments below. If you enjoyed this deep dive and want more content that challenges you to think differently, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel. It truly helps us continue creating this content for you. Until next time, keep questioning, keep learning, and keep growing.